Hi, I'm here with Pastor Tommy Dennis. Pastor Tommy Dennis is the senior pastor of Crossroads Cowboy Church in Arkansas, and he's also a very gifted musician. And I've seen him lead music ministries better than anybody I've ever personally worked with or served alongside. So I consider Tommy to be a good friend and a highly qualified music ministry leader. He's also the founding pastor of, as I said, Crossroads Cowboy Church Plant. It's about to celebrate 1 year anniversary pretty soon. So, Tommy, thanks for joining us today. How you doing, buddy?
Man, I'm good. It's so good to be talking to you, man. We had some conversations earlier, and I miss you guys. I really do. I miss your family and us hanging out and going to get something to eat. We had some challenges early on, not you and I, but together we went through some things, didn't we?
Yep. Pastor Tommy was there whenever I first discerned the calling to planting churches. Tommy helped me to kind of discern the will of the Lord for our life, and now we've got a 1.5 year old church plant, and so Tommy has been there as the seeds were originally planted, and watched as I was developed into a leader from a
Yep.
disciple, and helped to do some sending, and so just very grateful for Tommy and everything he's um, helped God to accomplish in my life.
You were my associate pastor too.
That's right.
Yeah.
Church that is still very near to my heart, Living Tower. Love
Yeah.
those guys.
hmm Good
So,
people.
Tommy, we are going to ask you a couple of questions here, and we're going to use the information that you give us to help us to create some great training materials for some aspiring music ministry leaders as we identify them. So, if you don't mind, I'd like to start and ask you a couple of questions.
Okay.
So, one, do you believe that there's such a thing as introducing new songs into the rotation too often or too frequently?
Not only do I believe that, I've done it. I don't introduce a new song typically as a worship song until the people have heard it at least once or twice. By that, I mean, you'll have, we used to do, I don't hear now, but you and I, we used to do an opening song to kind of get people to their seats. It wasn't something, we even put the words on the screen because I didn't want them to think it's time to worship. So we just played an opening song. That's when I used that opportunity to play a new song I was going to introduce to the congregation. They didn't know it then, but that's what I would do. And oftentimes I would do that at least 2 weeks in a row, to let them hear it a couple of times. Even if it was a real popular song, a Chris Tomlin song or whatever, that was real hot right then, it was going on. I still let them hear it from the way we were doing it and let them get used to it. Now, when I introduced the song, um, I would do it probably 3 weeks in a row, even in the rotation, because again, you want them to get familiar with the song. And the question was, if I remember correctly, I kind of went off a rabbit trail there, but uh, can you introduce songs too quickly? Yes, you can. Um, I have discovered that even though I would like to see songs go introduced quicker, especially in a church where I felt like their catalog was lacking, and it needed some life breathed into it, you really shouldn't add into the rotation more than one new song a month. Okay, and that may be too much. For a musician or a singer, it's no brainer. You'd like new songs every week. But for the people out there, the average Joe Blow, who the people don't aren't musically inclined, and what you're trying to create is a situation where you're allowing them to enter into worship. And if it's a new song, they're still trying to understand how the words flow and what the melody is. They're not going to enter in, and you're going to run that song through, and then you're not going to play it again for a few weeks or a month or two till you get through your rotation, and they're not going to remember it. I try to at least give it, a one song a month is max.
That's good. What's your general philosophy on the song rotation? So if you've got songs already in your catalog and you're picking your songs for this month, next month, what's your general philosophy on how often to play those songs, how quickly to enter a song already in your catalog into the rotation? How do you rotate songs in and out, whether they are already in or not already in your catalog?
Well, different philosophies on that. I tend to listen to what I think God is wanting for me to do. And I've had the advantage of being the pastor and the worship leader for many years at my church. So these conversations I didn't have to have. But when I was working for a pastor as a worship leader, I would try to find out from him what he's preaching on, what the timbre and tenor of that message is going to be. If it's going to be more of an evangelistic, a come to Jesus kind of message, then I would find songs that kind of fit that mold, fit that message, so that it's you're actually crafting your service. So a rotation, you can have too many. You need to go through and call your rotation sometimes, because some songs you don't want to play as often, especially if they've gotten to be kind of old and stale. You really got to pay attention to the Spirit of God and what the people in your congregation enjoy. And every now and then it's nice to bring back one of those songs that you kind of called out, and nice to bring it back just to play it so the people, oh, I used to love that song, But you want to keep your rotation fresh. You want to keep new material coming in. And then you want to throw in a hymn or two. If you got a 4-song rotation, then one of those probably should be a hymn that everybody's kind of familiar with. So you want to keep your set fresh.
So keeping your set fresh and introducing new songs at about the pace of once a month, and making sure the congregation is familiar with them before they're in the rotation during the Sunday service, maybe by introducing them somehow.
Yeah, I mean, the once a month introducing new songs. Now, what I mean by that is when you're actually in the rotation. If you're going to play that new song at the front of your service for 2 weeks in a row, that's not included in your rotation. I'm talking about when you actually take that song and put it in. Now it's in your Sunday service. I would play it at least a couple of times, 2 or 3 times, before you introduce anything else. Now, by introducing, I mean in the set rotation. But when I say every month add a new song, that's what I mean by make sure that song has been played at least twice in front of the people. Then you start what you call introducing the song to them in a rotation. Does that make sense?
It makes a lot of sense.
Worship leading is a craft, and it's not about you. It's not about what songs you necessarily like or what songs you think should be played, or how well you sing or don't sing a song. Those things all matter, okay? But above everything should be what reaches the people. You're really trying to involve them in the service. You're trying to suck them into the service of the Spirit of God. Not trying to manipulate them, but you want them to be a part. You don't want to just be up there doing a concert. Okay, so you want to pull them in. That makes sense?
That's real good. Yeah.
So your relationship with your pastor, if you're a worship leader or a song leader, is paramount, key, and absolutely the most important thing that goes on. Does the pastor, are you with him or her on the same page in what songs you're doing, how you're doing them, when you're doing them?
That's good. Yeah, a lot of synergy is required, a lot of communication.
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. That relationship has to be key. If a pastor and a song leader or a worship leader don't click, there's going to be a problem. There will be down the road.
What are some other considerations that you make, if any, whenever you're introducing new songs to the congregation?
Well, obviously, the first thing anybody's going to think about is, does this fit us? In other words, if I had a conservative congregation, I had middle-aged people in it, I wouldn't do a DC Talk kind of rap thing, You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I wouldn't do anything too on the edge like that. Again, your worship leader is going to go, well, but I like this song a lot, but that doesn't fit your congregation. You know, in my church, my cowboy church now, I would never pick a Chris Tomlin song, although I love them. I'd love to be doing them. You know that I do. And I can do them, but not in this church. It's not about what I like. We should not get pigeonholed into one mode of thinking in our churches. That's what's killed the church and killing the church. We think it has to be done this way. If it's not done that way, then it's not honoring God. And that's just not true. There are so many ways to do church. Church is not the building, as you know. And so I just say that to say, keep your mind open.
That's good. Last question then. So not necessarily on the topic of introducing new songs, but just in general, is there any advice that you'd like to give an aspiring music ministry leader as they develop their leadership skills?
Absolutely. Stay tight with the Lord, number one. Stay tight with your pastor. Hopefully you'll develop a relationship with him or her that when they have something that they want to change or say to you, or maybe a suggestion, that you don't take it as you don't be defensive about it, that you're not like, well, I must not be doing a good job. You don't know. They don't know what they're talking about. They're the pastor, but a lot of times pastors don't know anything about music or sound or anything like that. And so develop that relationship where you can speak honestly and openly into one another's lives. Be on the same page about what they're looking for in the service and what your expectations are from you, from the pastor. What do they want you to do and not want you to do? Those are always good, clear communication lines. And then lastly, pay attention to your heart. What is the reason you're doing what you're doing? Are you doing it to serve God? Are you really have a servant's heart? Or are you really kind of getting a little bit of charge out of people telling you how good you are? And that happens. I know it makes us all feel good. It makes pastors feel good when someone says, boy, you preached great today. But what we have to remember is we wouldn't have that compliment coming to us if it wasn't for the gift that God gave us. God puts that gift in us. We didn't do anything to get that gift. Now, I will say this lastly, our responsibility as song leaders and worship leaders, even as pastors, is to get better. So I began my ministry by going to as many conferences on preaching as I could, because I wasn't used to doing that. I also, when I first started worship leading, my church invested in me, sent me to Willow Creek's Artist Summit 2 or 3 years in a row, and I learned a ton. Also do a lot of reading. I told you there's a couple of books out there. They're older, but man, they hit the spot. One of them is Rory Nolan's Heart of the Artist. It'll help you develop a worship team. It'll not just tell you what you should be having, but how to develop a worship team. And the other one is Darlene Check. Remember her from Hillsongs. She has a book called Extravagant Worship. Those 2 books are the best I've found. So don't stop bettering yourself. Don't think you've reached a place where, okay, I get it now. I understand. Always try to better yourself. Always be learning and absorbing. Those are the things that I would recommend. And that's what I've learned. I've done all the wrong stuff. So what I'm telling you is the stuff that I know works, and I have learned it from other worship leaders and pastors and training materials.
That's really great. Well, Tommy, I just want to thank you again for your time. I'm really grateful for your willingness to share some of your experience and this wisdom with us. And we're going to sign off, and hope you have a great rest of your day.